Clickety click, 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 click.
And that's our intro. We're back for more bitch with Mitch.
Am I bitching with Mitch?
I don't know.
Bitchin' Mitch, nah.
Bitchin' Mitch.
Yeah, but it's a different context on this.
So, what do we have here now? I see the New York Times.
Yeah, I'm trying to find that was the clicking because you're like, all right, countdown. I'm like, oh crap, I should probably pull up the whole article so I could actually get all the deets.
Okay. So I don't know if you want me to share that thing that you sent. It's just a screenshot, I guess. Is that off of TikTok?
I hope not. It might be. Was it? Oh god. Yeah, it was off of TikTok. See, listen, I was just having one of those days where I was just scrolling through TikTok. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes you just want to turn your brain off and scroll through dumb stuff. See, my TikTok is mostly like science stuff, news updates, physics, quantum. There's a couple, there's like boobies bouncing, but I can't fight all the algorithm, okay? I can only fight so much of it. And also comedians saying wild off the wall shit. But
all right. Well, the article's legitimate anyway.
Yes. New York Times.
Yeah, a lecturer showed a painting of the Prophet Muhammad. She lost her job.
Yeah.
Ms. Wedatala, might have slaughtered that name, described often through tears how she felt seeing the image. You see someone disrespecting and offending your religion. There's something over top of that. That's all I've got right there. I don't know if you have the rest of the article up.
I do, but for some reason it's giving me weird. It's saying to the editor. I don't know where the actual link to the story is suddenly.
But you
Oh, found it. Got it. Okay. Okay. Erica Lopez Prater, an adjunct professor at Hamline University, said she knew many Muslims have deeply held religious beliefs that prohibit depictions of the Prophet Muhammad. So last semester, for a global art history class, she took many precautions before showing a 14th century painting of Islam's founder. In the syllabus, she warned that images of holy figures, including the Prophet Muhammad and the Buddha, would be shown in the course. She asked students to contact her with any concerns, and she said no one did. In class, she prepped students, telling them that in a few minutes the painting would be displayed in case anyone wanted to leave. Then, Dr. Lopez Prater showed the image and lost her teaching gig. Officials at Hamline, a small private university in St. Paul, Minnesota, with about 1,800 undergraduates, had tried to douse what they feared would become a runaway fire. Instead, they ended up with what they had tried to avoid, a national controversy which pitted advocates of academic liberty and free speech against Muslims who believe that showing the image of Prophet Muhammad is always sacrilege. That's not the end of it, but I think that about sums it up, and the rest of it is.
So the sacrilege thing, though, about showing the picture of the prophet or whatever, that only happened more recently. That's a more recent thing in history that's even a thing. Is that what you were telling me?
Yeah, I'd have to. So, she says, "Oh, okay." Okay, in a December interview, so this must have, when the hell did this happen? I probably just read when it happened. Yeah, whatever. A student
article says it was published January 8th.
Yeah.
This year. But
so in a December interview with the school newspaper, so this had to have happened in like November, October. Yeah, this was last year.
Yeah.
The student who complained to the administration, Aram Wendata Tala, oh god damn it, Aram, described being blindsided by the image, which that's nonsense. They had the syllabus. She warned over and over and over. She did every reasonable action to try to make sure that no one would be quote unquote blindsided by the image.
But
Uh,
this school still ended up calling it Islamophobic and everything as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Yeah, that seems insane to me to be firing somebody over art as well. That's supposed to be like an expression of yourself and stuff. So how are you like? Isn't that censorship? At what point is it censorship, or at what point is it whatever? I don't a phobia of
So
religion.
we can go on again. The image is quote. Okay, so what is this? The painting shows. Okay, the painting shown by Prater is one of the earliest Islamic illustrations or illustrated histories of the world. A compendium of chronicles written during the 14th century by Rashid al-Din, 1247, 1318. Shown regularly in art history classes, the painting shows a winged and crowned angel Gabriel pointing at the Prophet Muhammad and delivering to him the first Quranic revelation. Muslims believe that the Quran comprises the words of Allah revealed to the Prophet Muhammad through the angel Gabriel. The image is, quote unquote, a masterpiece of Persian manuscript painting. A master, yeah, said Christiane Gruber, a professor of Islamic art at the University of Michigan. It is housed at the University of Edinburgh. Similar paintings have been on display at places like the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Dr. Gruber said that showing Islamic art and depictions of the Prophet Muhammad have become more common in academia because of a push to quote unquote decolonize the canon, unquote, that is, expand curriculum beyond a Western model. He said that studying Islamic art without this compendium of chronicles image would be like not teaching Michelangelo's David. I can't find when, because someone mentioned, or this I might be mistaken, but from what I've heard is like it's a more modern hardline take on not seeing any depictions of Muhammad versus seeing satirizations or unflattering characterizations of the Muhammad. Was like what originally was like, don't, you can't you can't talk shit on Muhammad by like drawing a fucking, comic strip where he's like farting or something, right? But somehow it went from that to no, you just can't, no picture of him at all. And I wonder if that might have stemmed from the fact that like someone's like, "What's wrong? I just drew a picture of him. This is not good." And like,
Yeah.
kind of like the South Park thing. It's like, what? It's just a joke. It's
I'm
not
honestly
offended.
surprised that more Christians didn't pick up on that here. Like because they do it with their religion
How
as
the
well. They
living
don't.
fuck could they do that? There's a cross with Jesus on it everywhere.
Yeah.
The cost to take all that shit down alone would probably be in insurmountable amounts of
Yeah.
financial. Like it would cost $20 billion to like go around and take down all the fucking giant statues. How are you gonna take the Jesus down that's in Brazil, or where the fuck is that?
I mean, I
Where's
guess, but
that giant one?
at that point, you're talking about symbology as well, and it's like, well, if they're that worked up over that, then where does that thought process end? Like, they still have their little moon shape and shit for their temples and stuff, or not what is it for Islam? Is that still considered a temple, or do they call it a yeah?
Temple, sure. Wait, no, that's Jewish, isn't it? No, that's synagogue. Hmm. Yeah, fuck, I don't know. Doesn't matter. The thing I wasn't actually that interested in like the Muhammad thing. Everyone's known that. Hell, there was a giant thing where like Mike and Troy Parker from the fucking South Park had death threats because they were gonna put Muhammad on one of their cartoons. Right? There
Yeah.
was the French artist that got fucking murked because he put Muhammad on one of his art magazines or something. They shot up the building or whatever.
Yeah.
They went American Middle School on some art store. So like that's not good. But that's not really what I wanted to really discuss with that. What I find interesting about this story is this crossroads between being super progressive and liberal with ideologies and offense and microaggressions, offending somebody, trying to make sure that everyone feels welcome, safe, space, all that stuff. Where this butts heads with certain religious ideologies that have absolutely no thoughts about tolerance of anything else. Like, and it kind of made me think of that
Yeah.
when we were talking about in the, I guess, the
They're basically
last portion of
saying
this episode.
they basically want to say that it's bigoted to speak out against bigotry or hate or oppression or any of the
Well,
things that
not really,
they're
because it's not even
promoting.
like. But the thing is, like, in this specific thing, it's just about the picture
Right.
of their
Well, that's
prophet.
oppressing
Their
artwork, though, and it's oppressing you aren't
well, the
allowed
art was
to.
made by a Muslim. Like, that's
Yeah,
the wildest part. It was an
yeah.
Islamic artist.
Well, oppression and bigotry and all of that, it can still work against itself. Like they can that totally happens. Like in every group, there's, uh, I mean, who was
Well,
that?
what
Milo or
Milo
Milo?
Yiannopoulos,
Yeah,
the dangerous. Yeah,
right. That now has turned out to be, I don't know. Is he straight now again?
he
Is he
said he
straight again?
found Jesus. And he's like, oh no, everything's better now that I like pussy.
I mean, I think his shit's just purely for the grift, but
Yes, oh, 100%.
don't get me
He's
wrong,
a
but there are people.
contrarian.
That was probably a bad example, but there are people that do that, that are
Yeah,
against themselves extremely. Like, you see all those women that were drooling over Trump, and yet that, is how you
very
get women's.
unsettling.
Uh,
He can
yeah,
grab my pussy anytime. Like, ew. Oh man, but yeah, no. Milo Yiannopoulos was 100%. What's the word I'm looking for? Not contrarian. I mean, kind of. What's not sensationalist?
yeah,
When the whole everything you're
shock
trying to do,
culture, trying
shock
to,
jock,
yeah,
yeah, provocateur. That's what I was looking
there,
for. Like
yeah,
his whole thing was that. That was his shtick.
provocateur, yep,
Um, so yeah, no, but what this one makes it interesting is like what pisses me off is that they kowtowed to the people that took offense to this picture being brought up when every single possible action was taken to make sure that it wouldn't happen, wouldn't offend them, wouldn't hurt anybody. And yet they still went full throw book at this professor, this Muslim professor.
yeah.
To,
Not even a warning or anything is weird too.
wait, I might have misspoken. I don't know. No, she's not. My bad. I got confused. There was the guy that was. Yeah, no, I was reading that wrong. So yeah, no, the teacher herself was not Muslim. My bad. But every reasonable
The
action is
artist,
taken to make sure.
no, the artist
The
was, but
artist,
yeah,
that's probably, yeah, that was it. I'm an idiot. So
no, you're good.
I'm just getting confused because, like I said, I read this story like twice, and I'm reading it
Yep.
third time right now. Like, oh, so, but again, like I said, what I was getting at is the fact that, like, in the process of trying to, you know, let everyone
Be
be as
inclusive.
safe, yeah, inclusive and as safe as possible, and you take someone that was doing everything that they could to do their job right and everything, and they did everything as perfectly as possible, and then you fire them and then beg for
Like,
forgiveness
yeah,
from the people
like,
that didn't want art to be shown somewhere. When again, they told them not to be there.
see,
So
I've seen something similar and more, I don't know, more extreme from Christians on this thing too, where they've gotten kind of like these, I call it the hippie culture group, the ones that are going to yoga and are into the wooish beliefs
spiritual,
and stuff, and the I don't know what,
they
but
call them spiritual.
yeah, but though that crowd of people, I've seen those stick up for some very like ignorant beliefs and stuff
No, that's
because
their
of
right
this
to have
idea.
that
Yeah, because of
hatred.
their idea to bring everyone together and for the greater good and all of that shit. And it's like that you're ignoring damage done by religious trauma, you
Yeah,
fucking assholes. Like when you're doing shit like that and you're normalizing that all beliefs should be held, that they should just all be held on the same like level as everything else, the of like beliefs should be held to the same accountability as
Yeah,
every other belief is how that should fucking work, rather
that's a good way to
than
put it.
beliefs should be,
I agree with
you
that.
know, held equally in regard or whatever as all other beliefs. That's a stupid way of looking at it. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah,
You can respect a person, but to respect the beliefs outside of like any critique is bad. Like
right.
I don't even want to say dumb. It's just not great because like we talked about in the previous portion of this, some of those things can be horrifyingly detrimental. You're right to believe in what you want. I will fight to the end for because I don't want at any point in time someone like having it one way or the other. Like I don't want a state sanctioned or forced any type of ideology one way or the other.
Yeah.
But when the ideology as a whole has an atrocious, awful, asinine history and continuing present with what it's pushing to do, what it wants to see, who it wants to get rid of, or press, or just not be around. You have to understand that that's not good for a civilization or society as a whole. And if you do believe it is, that means that you are excluding and ostracizing and oppressing people because you think that yours is the correct one to believe. Everyone else should be discredited unless you follow a certain set of beliefs. For example, like when someone got mad at me for mad at us for being particularly intoxicated and very freewheeling with our distaste for certain, let's say, religions.
Yeah.
And he brought it up to me on a later date, very, very angrily. I was like, you understand, I'm not talking about you. Like, you're a friend. I'm not talking about you individually. I'm not worried about whether or not you believe that your grandma's in a better place. I would never fucking sit there and try to tell you otherwise. That'd be a shithead thing to do. But I will say that like the ideology that you carry, the religion that you follow, as a body does awful things. Like one of the reasons why many, many women in this country, especially, just recently lost huge swaths of their
See,
bodily autonomy was because of
this is
religious theocracy getting shoved into the highest courts of the land.
and this is the problem I see anymore, and I can't have friends like that. I just can't. I won't. Like I can't do that anymore. It feels like I don't know. It feels
You
like I'm
feel
supporting
dirty.
I feel like I'm supporting an enabler for those things because that's what I'm doing. Like those people are normalizing shit fucking behavior that's harmful to other people. At the end of the day, it's unfortunate that's what they're doing. Whether they know they're doing it or not, that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I have a hard time finding the line with that anymore with it's I can't do it.
My line is fuzzy only because I have slightly chameleon like tendencies and I learn things from people. So I'm not saying I don't want to make it sound like I just use them because I've had friends for a while. My line is like if they proselytize those specific awful detrimental things. And I definitely agree with what you say. Like regardless of whether or not they personally say it, as that being a part of the group as a whole gives it power and gives it, more perpetuation into the future and ability to do the awful things it does. But at the same time, like I said, I have this thing where like I can see a lot of people like he doesn't believe in many of the tenets, and that's a whole nother conversation. It's like people that don't even believe in the tenets of it, but then still want to like hold the other happy, warm, fuzzy beliefs of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times that's what it is. And I kind of make that judgment call over the time I know them. And this
Yeah.
one person is very much someone that holds on to the warm fuzzy tenants, but doesn't at all believe in like the shitty ones because we agree on almost everything politically for the most part. Um,
That I don't know. Like
that's where I'm like, I
to
have a hard
me
time being that hard line.
and what I've experienced and stuff with that, it seems like those are the people that are going to gloss over like I said, I don't think they purposefully ignore bigotry and shit. I don't think they purposefully, ignore trauma and shit or anything like that. But they tend to play into those fucking things because they don't understand that they're defending awful fucking things by trying to normalize it as just these good things.
Well,
And
yeah, no, I will, and that's why I do push back. Like, I'll
especially
push
when you
back when they try to
start
defend
getting
it.
especially when you start getting into things like everything happens for a reason. When you
Oh
start
god,
pushing that philosophy on people, there are people that I know, and myself included, that have been through some shitty things growing up, and people, there was domestic violence and shit I grew up with. I prayed about that it would go away. There was all kinds of shit that if there was a God and he had any fucking ethics, morals about him, if he, they, she, it, whatever, had any kind of sense of morals, that they would have fucking done something. Like if somebody was begging me to stop this thing from happening, I would at least fucking try, right? Like, but no,
yeah.
that doesn't fucking happen.
I mean, when you,
Um,
there's really no
and
other
then
way. If you,
whenever people say, "Oh, well, you everything happens for a reason," then you're telling me that there was good reason for that to fucking happen to me,
yeah, yeah,
or
hand waving away atrocities, because there was a grand
so this
scheme
this bad
purpose.
thing had to happen for a good thing to happen.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Which I
bullshit.
mean, but and that's such an easy thing to like to immediately dissuade, but with their own logic too, because you'd be like, well, he
Well,
works in mysterious ways. Okay, but
okay,
he's a genius, perfect, brilliant, omnipotent being. He couldn't think of a better
well,
way to get to point B
what it goes
from
to is
A.
it goes to you'll talk to the person, you'll be like, well, you'll bring this shit up and they'll be, well, but we don't know, it could happen for, because you ask them, well,
You're the
what
one
good
that
thing is
says
going to
they
happen,
know.
right?
You
What's the
say
good
you know for sure. You
well
say that. That's
what's the
them.
good thing what's the good thing that happened because of this bad thing? What's happened now? What's the good out of all this? How does this equate on this scale of yours in your head, that now I've got all of this trauma and shit that I also have to deal with on top of the initial trauma that happened
Permanently
to
for the
begin
rest of
with,
my life, most
and
likely.
I have to sort through all this shit myself.
Yeah.
And the other part of that, and that's not even including the physical, you know aspects of it, of sleep and deprivation and things, and you get into IBS and all of the swath
Good.
of fucking other things that cross over into physical.
This shit fucked me up
um
so much I literally can't poop right, motherfuckers.
yeah. but yeah, just a wave that shit away as well. And yeah, how do you say that? And then yeah, it's almost like excusing the abuse that happened. It's an excuse for
It's hand
fucking
waving.
terrible things. It's just a
Yeah.
long way around it.
It's a hand wave
Yeah.
or apologetics. That's literally why. Yeah, that's why that term, apologizing for the
But
trash.
they seem to think it's the opposite way, that gives meaning to I don't understand that type
And
of.
to be mad at you for being mad at the awfulness. How dare
Right.
you question this
Yeah.
perfect thing that happened? You're like, the perfect thing that happened?
Yeah.
Because look at what good came from it. It's like, yes, the
Not only that, I talk to other people that were raped every fucking day of their lives since they can fucking remember, and they have all kinds of. So that person deserved all of that. The person that grew up, that lives in a country where they fucking have, they were born, okay, a child was born and they have fucking whatever, uh eye eating fucking parasites in their body or whatever, or they have.
yeah,
Yeah, that's part of some grand scheme. Then fuck that. Like, what is wrong with you? Why would you
yeah.
think that's a thing?
I
Why would you want that to be a thing?
because they're not thinking about those awful things. Again, remember how I said that a lot of
Yeah.
times people can disassociate whether or not they realize they're doing it with like the awful stuff that like is
Right.
implied by their things. They focus on the fuzzy
But
warm feelings.
that also
Like this is how
allows
I get through.
that allows those horrible things to happen more than by doing that. Like it allows for that stuff because that translates into that rhetoric, into them fucking spewing that shit out constantly, and then being in a system where other people are already being oppressed by these things. And at a certain point, like the people that have been through this abuse and this religious trauma and shit, like I had grown up with, and like the people that I'm talking about have grown up with and been in, that shit does something to a person to where they are already blaming themselves and feeling guilty about things
Yeah, what
in
did I
their
do to
lives.
deserve this?
So now you're going to interject that was all, you know, you're making it worse. You're saying that it's that person's fault then. You're kind of pushing the blame back on them, that everything happens for a reason or whatever, and that reason was what? The person wasn't good enough or what?
Well, that's just it. You can
the
assign reason retrospectively. I mean, we could get philosophical on that in a grander
Yeah.
sense, like reason or not reason. You know, purpose and meaning comes retrospectively. We add that later because of our ability to like perceive what's happening around us and then watch what happens afterwards. So we can just be like, oh, well, that all had purpose, that had reason because blankety blank, and then something could happen from it.
Right.
Like you can say that like the wildfire that, you know, killed people or something like that. It's like, well, it nurtured the soil. It added nutrients. It's gonna be fertile now. Like you're like, what the shit? I mean, unless you're a misanthrope, then you're like, fuck yeah, man, fuck people. I'm glad the soil's better. Those worms are fucking eating good, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you can always assign retrospectively whatever the fuck you want, retroactively whatever the fuck you want. So, and what these people do is that's what I keep saying. Like, they keep the warm fuzzy portion and they ignore like the asinine implications of what they're saying because like it's in the past now. Let's look at the good thing. That's the warm fuzzy part. They're like, look, I'm just trying to focus on the good stuff. You're the one focused on all the awful stuff. God works in mysterious ways. Why do you want to care about that so much? I mean, look at how good things are now, or whatever.
There is like a certain amount of truth to some of it that you've got to focus on the good and stuff and all of that, and you've got to. But then at the end of it isn't focused to the good, you know, on good to the point of just ignoring all of the bad, because that's horrible too. Like,
yeah, because if you just ignore everything, then you're just in denial.
Yeah,
you're naive. I think karma is one of the things that irritate me one of the most. We wanted to touch on karma because this is basically the same thing, but not exactly. It's the just world fallacy wrapped up into woo, and it drives me nuts because every time someone's like, "Ha, karma got them," I was like, "Bad things happen to good people, and good things happen to bad people." I was like, karma is just something again we retrospectively slap onto a thing that happened to somebody that we don't like, because and a lot of times it's someone they just don't like. Like, it's like, ha, karma got it, but it's just like Becky at work that they didn't like because they like stole their fucking sushi or whatever, or not even that, just wasn't nice enough to them on Thursday. So on Friday when they get in a car crash, like, hey, karma got them.
Or Becky gets cancer or whatever. Like,
oh, geez, I wasn't going that fucking far, but yeah, I guess.
Well, I'm just thinking, like,
she cut me off in traffic, so like they fucking, you know, I'm glad she got fucking had to get her tit chopped off. That's fucked up. But dude, like that's why I don't like that fucking ideology.
If everybody got cancer that I wished it on, like, you know, everybody would have cancer.
I'd probably have cancer that one night we were yelling at each other's shit.
But yeah.
Fuck you, Mitch. Stop playing devil's advocate. I hope you get cancer. Fuck, man.
I hope you get cancer in one testicle.
And they call you the one nut wonder the rest of your life. Then
very specific about my wishes of cancer on people.
Yeah, 50% less chance to ever have a kid again.
Hey, we got one viewer right now. I don't know if maybe you just have us up on another screen. I don't
know. I don't know.
But hello, if that is a real viewer.
It might be. I don't know. They're probably just sitting there just like, shut the fuck up. I don't even know how to use the chat over
Probably
here.
a bot will just get a bunch of fucking campsites popping up on the
That
fucking
would be,
comments.
I'll click on it. I'll have that as the third thing up there. We're having these like super serious discussions, and then it's just some cam girl bouncing her ass like right above our head. That'd
We
be
should
fucking
only
great.
start inviting people for that.
Ah, no one's in here if they're not in a thong, except us. Well, you don't know if I'm wearing a thong, so maybe I am allowed in here. Now I'm derailed. What the hell was I? I was on some ranty bullshit. Oh, karma. The only reason I don't like it is because again, it like it implies that there's a just world, and that's a fallacy. It's one of the known main fallacies. It's like everything happens for a reason, or like
dude, I
bad people will
noticed-
get their comeuppance sooner or later.
I even noticed this shit. It even ties into like bootstrapping and stuff, right? Because I've seen this promoted with like the positive, the toxic positivity thing that are in these groups too. Where I've been in, it bleeds over into mental health. Like I'll see the and recovery. I keep
Yeah,
like I have read a bunch into mental health things and all of that, and to help myself along the way and everything. So I have all these different resources, but some of these groups you'll get into and you'll see like they'll mix some things that are legit that have been researched out and there's stuff for, but the wording and terminology and shit that some of these things use, it's very capitalistic and promoting like this idea of bootstrapping, and you pick yourself up by your
yeah,
bootstraps and you deal with it. And
yeah.
um
If you push hard enough, you'll get
and the
what
karma
you
thing
deserve.
plays into that too, because if you
Yeah.
aren't doing on the other end of those things, if that's the case, then if you aren't advancing in life or whatever,
There's the implication. That
then
means you're doing
you're
poorly.
fucking
You're
something
poor
up.
because of moral failings,
But
physical failings, mental failings,
it completely cuts out environment.
motivational failings.
So that also plays into excusing bigotry and all like a swath of things you've decided to now promote with that kind of language that people don't think about.
Yeah.
Um,
Again, like I said, ignore the heavy negative implications
yeah,
because that would take it. You have to talk about it, think about it, suss it all out. No one has time for that. You and me will sit here and pontificate on this shit because we find
yeah,
well, one, because you've lived through some shit, so of course you're going to be very invested in like getting this across to people. As I've said before, I came into atheism and skepticism because I wanted to be an edgelord douche nozzle that was a contrarian more or less, because I grew up in an area where everyone was mostly religious. There wasn't really there might have been like one other like person that called themselves like agnostic, and I would fight with that guy too.
yeah.
So like, but again, like for me, it's a hobby. For you, it's a fucking thing that matters a lot. So therefore, because and then as I matured, I realized that holy shit, it's not just a debate topic. People are actually continuing to be like really super fucked up by this shit.
And that's
'Cause
the thing, man. I'm like, it's
so it
good
makes
to
it
actually,
more.
it's good to find some people, like it's good to find people like that that are actually able to grasp those concepts or think about it into that depth, because I think a lot of things go by and people just look at it as a news article and dude, these are things that were happening in my church growing up. These were concepts that were going on there. These are things that they were promoting, they were endorsing. And there's more to it than what meets the eye. It's more than just a fucking news article that's crossed the newspaper for the week or whatever. I was just looking up an old article about that had similar ties to the Baptist upbringing that I had, that had to do with the Quiverful movement. The Have you heard of the Quiverful movement?
Yes. Yeah.
And I'd forgotten
Yeah. Yeah.
completely.
That's
I'd
that's a
completely
thing.
forgotten that a few years ago there was a thing, and this is me, that has been through it, seeing this happen and pop up in a news article and completely forgetting it and it passing by. Now I
No.
understand the shit on other levels, that there's so many. I think for me it's more that I've went through so many of them that they all kind of blend together at a certain point.
Just blends
But
together into one
yeah,
miasma.
which is sad, but you know, there's the opposite end of that where nobody even pays attention to them. But this one in particular was about the guy that went in and he worked at a sperm bank or something, and he ended up changing out all of the fucking shit for his own sperm in
Fuck.
hopes that he was
What the
going to
shit?
repopulate the earth with Christians because it's better for, like, these are the morals
Does he
that
think
you're
that like the
basing things off of.
sperm has like that a thought in its head? It's like,
Yeah, well,
the sperm is Christian.
I don't know, but this is getting very close to the
Which
area that our church promoted the thing of
which
marrying young.
denomination do you think the little spermies were?
Fundies.
Oh, they were fun.
But yeah, this isn't that far away from the beliefs that we had at an independent fundamentalist Baptist church growing up. It was it was that thing of you get married young, you have kids young, and you jump into all of this stuff, and then glorifying love and things, and
Oh, there
mixing
was
love up with like the idea of obedience and things,
more.
connecting with love rather
That's it.
than
Yeah, love mixed with like
individuality or
obedience.
anything. Yeah, codependency, shitty, like things that a shitty fucking like a narcissist would do, but it's been normalized
Well,
so much by the religion that it's okay.
well, that was the
Like,
whole, but that's the whole point. The whole point,
right.
and the reason why it has to be so iron fisted is so that you hammer out any, stray questions that
Well,
might
it's the
float
best
into
way
your head.
for,
Like,
yeah,
hey, wait a minute. And they're like, bang, bang, bang. No.
it's the best way for propaganda to be spread is to do it in a way that's you're gently normalizing it into the populace first. Because
Yeah.
then you start coming up with extreme shit. It isn't so extreme anymore.
There's something we can talk about. That's a great segue when you said it's about soft touch, and then once you get them in there, then you can radicalize.
Hmm.
He gets us the
He
Super Bowl
gets us.
thing,
Yeah.
the thing where
Yeah.
it's like Jesus was an immigrant, and they were trying to inject all these progressive, more liberal, like keywords and like motifs into these $1 million uh, commercials and one of the most viewed things on the planet. And the whole point is very obviously not to try to be like immigrants are good and you should accept everyone for who they are. No, no, the whole point is to like
What is this
soften
movie?
up.
Is this a movie about Billy Graham, by the
No,
way? Or
it's
is it about
commercial.
what? Was it it's just a
It's
commercial? I
literally a
thought it was
commercial.
like
It's just a group of commercials, like a string of commercials that played throughout the Super Bowl, and it plays a few other places. But the most important one, of course, was the Super Bowl because like 205 million people watched the fucking Super Bowl. And the point was
so
to
it was just a
give a
campaign. That's
liberal
it.
progressive. It's a campaign that he gets this
Wow.
campaign, but it's funded like there's an LLC, and they have the whole shell game thing
I
going on. But you
misunderstood. It looked like a fucking movie. Like I thought there
that
was a
because they have
movie
20
that
million fucking dollars to
I thought
spend
they
on a
were
fucking
promoting some kind of fucking
no,
movie. Like
no,
whenever
they're
I saw this
promoting
shit.
Christianity, but they're using progressive terminologies and motifs
Right.
and feels to try to get more
Fascism. Yeah.
liberal, more liberal people to go in there. And the point isn't to try to liberalize the Christianity. Of course, the fuck not. The
No,
point is to get them in there and then just slowly
well
radicalize them in another direction.
they'll try to
It's
normalize
disgusting. It's
they'll
wild. It's brilliant in a terrible way.
well they're already doing it, but
Yeah,
they've been doing it for years. But yeah, they're
just
trying to
not with
normalize
this
it.
much of a push.
No, they're trying to normalize it to the point where the person that they're spreading this propaganda to, they want them to feel like their family, and they'll even use that terminology and say that they're part of their church family and shit at that
Yes.
point. And then
Yeah.
whenever they've got them into that point, then they can say, look at what all of these other people are doing to oppress us. And
Yeah.
it's all just because of these things that it says in this book that we
Yeah.
believe.
That's what I'm saying. Like the whole point is to get them to just get them in the door. First hit's free, man, and then you work on them from there.
Yeah.
And
And then
that's what this whole he gets us thing is about.
they
It's
can twist the
wild.
words around. They can put it. They can you can make that Bible say whatever the fuck you want, whether it says it or not.
Well, that's the whole point. Like that's a whole shit. That's
Yeah,
8 episodes right there. Just
right,
talking about how you can take what it was actually said, how many times it's been reiterated, retranslated, omitted, reinserted, fucking,
right.
and then on top of all of
Stolen from
that,
other religions, taken through trade routes, and fucking implemented into the
yeah, yeah.
religion. And
And then, like I said, and then not only has it done all that to it, it has then gone through three more lenses of just you know uh,
and
how
then
that's perceived or how
oh
someone
yeah, and then
interprets it.
yeah, and depending on which little sect or denomination that you end up in, you could that even like there's so many different translations of the Bible that might be a different uh just a slightly different wording, and this little sect over here will hate this Bible,
Or you
but
can
this
just
one will
interpret the
like.
word differently.
Oh, it's
Like it's
crazy, and all of them
yeah,
think that
the
they're
most right.
yeah,
But
and that their
again,
version is the right
now we're
version.
just fucking trampling on a horse that's been dead for so fucking long. It's just mist on the ground.
Yeah,
You can't even beat the horse anymore. So yeah, that's why I wanted to bring that up though. Like I don't know what else to really add at that moment. It's just like that he gets us a campaign is insidious
it
in what it's
is.
trying to do. And how good how good they're getting at like trying to figure out how to try to reach a new generation or at least a new like group.
I think that it isn't that far fetched to see that Christianity is just the new. They're trying. This is Christian dominionism that was in my church growing up, and there was a podcast that talked about that was really good. Listened to it years ago, but I believe it's still up. Straight White American Jesus, which is
I
uh,
heard about this one. Never
and
seen or
they were
read
talking
or
about Christian dominionism, and they were basically defining my church and all of the little churches that were around my
yeah.
area. And there was like 5 churches in my little town. This describe like all of the fundamentalist churches and all of these things. Like people that haven't been in religion don't seem to understand how all of these branches tie together at the end of the day. Um, because our church was picky about who they endorsed and stuff, and all of that, but they weren't part of the quiverful movement. In fact, they distanced themselves from it and say that they weren't part of that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they were promoting the same exact concepts, that you were to repopulate the earth and it to be Christian one way or another,
Yeah.
basically.
You had to
And they
outbirth
wanted
the
all of
other
the laws to
groups.
be Christian. They wanted it to be run by a Christian government. They want
Theocracy.
theocracy they implemented. They want the whole world to be this way, but they don't believe that they'll ever truly get it until the end times. But that's okay because they'll be going away anyways
Yeah.
and be left into the. So
Yeah.
it's
What are you
like,
trying to win anyways if the world's just ending anyhow, right? Shouldn't you just
yeah.
like hang out, do whatever?
Well, no,
Not sin, I guess.
it's going to be reformed afterwards or whatever.
Oh, right.
Whatever beliefs that go into that, depending on the sect that you're in and all of that as
I was about to
well.
say,
But
yeah, 'cause I always forget that I was Catholic, so like it was just like it ends and then that's it, motherfuckers.
no, they ours actually. I remember us having like conversations in the little teen groups and shit as well. Like they would have their own meetings and stuff, and the adults there would talk about the shit too. But there was discussion about how, I don't know, the reward system and shit would happen in heaven and stuff, and they speculate over that shit out of Bible
The
verses. And
reward system.
yeah, there's like
What
they
is there
take
like a
some
wheel up
verses
there?
that
You spin it and you're like,
they think.
you get wings.
No, they think that you might be able to basically govern over worlds and shit, like have your own little world to yourself and be on the
I
all
mean, that sounds
slightly
fun, but
almost
I can
god
do that with a
level of
video game
things.
right now. I play Stellaris all the fucking time. I don't need to have some whack ass belief that, gay people can't fuck to
Mm.
like have a world on my own later, maybe after I die.
I really feel like Muslims rip themselves off in that aspect though, because like all they got's fucking milk and honey, and there's all these streets of gold that you
Yeah,
can't
man.
do anything with in heaven that would
I can
be
make milk and
no
honey right
purpose for.
now. Shit, Starbucks is way better. Why don't you put some caffeine in that milk
Well,
and
they
honey,
never
man? Shit.
specify. I don't think they ever specify if the milk stays fresh all the
Yeah,
time.
it
So
has
it's
to,
like,
obviously, right?
you know, I
It's
don't
as
know.
fresh as the virgins.
I don't know. You
Might
just
not
imagine
last.
these.
What lasts longer, the
Can you
milk or the
Can you
virgins?
imagine like this babbling brook of fucking chunky milk and honey? Like,
Like, oh fuck, Frank forgot to swap out the milk river. Hold on.
we need to change the filters again.
Ah, shit. Just a giant cow flies overhead. The hell is that? Where do you think the fucking milk comes from, dude?
Oh my god! And this
It's
is
the it's
okay.
that what was
Here,
that? What was it was Dairy the cow. What was that? What was the cow mascot for one of the milks? There's the dairy milk. Daisy the cow, wasn't that it?
oh, I don't even know.
Daisy the cow is actually a demigod. It's just fucking milk for everybody.
So I also
8,000 udders.
here I'll bring one up for you. This is a random one, but
Oh, good.
they had this was one. This was a post. It says, this is one of the few Christian friends. I know we've just unfollowed each other at this point. I think I made a smart ass comment on it and then I posted it on mine. But
Good job,
it's
Sleep.
a rock in
Way to
bad
be tolerant.
hands killed Abel. A rock in good hands killed Goliath. It's not about the rock. They're trying to. This is they're using the Bible to try to back up, and the
Weapons? It's a
yeah.
gun. This is a gun thing, right?
It's not
This
about
is a gun thing.
Here's the title of what the actual person posted because this is a repost, you know, like a meme, but
This
somebody
is a
else.
gun thing.
So on top of this, it says it's not about the weapon. It's about, and they used fucking commas wrong.
All
It should be
just
it's not
shotgun blast
it should
commas.
be it's not about the weapon, comma. It's about who is wielding the weapon.
Mm-hmm.
But they wrote it's not about the weapon. It's comma about who is wielding.
I love when
Anyway.
people forget like the enunciation of a sentence isn't how the
Yeah.
commas technically work. Like
Right.
in their head, that's where they put the emphasis of the story in their head. So like, well, that must be where the comma
It's
goes.
separating the ideas, not the.
Yeah, it's supposed to be written out literally, not phonetically.
Mhm.
But anyways,
So a rock in bad hands killed Abel. A rock in good hands killed Goliath. It's not about the rock.
this is about guns. That is 100%.
Yeah.
You know, good guys with guns kill the bad
So,
guys with guns.
This is like it just amazed me and pissed me off all at the same time with how much everything else is going on and how little this motherfucker. I went to school with him. And how little he gave a shit about religion and stuff growing up and stuff, and seeing him like suddenly change to Christianity all of a sudden, which he didn't.
It's
Like
not
it was just it
that's
wasn't
not
out of
unord-
nowhere. It was all around him, and it was part of his. You know, he had a religious background to begin with. It wasn't just out of nowhere like he's made it now that he is this reformed person or whatever. But it's amazing to see this transformation. He went from listening to like rap music and shit in school and stuff and all of this to being straight
No,
up.
not the rap.
Now it's like very bigoted Trump fucking supporting country music fucking dipshittery and changed his whole thing. And now it's all suddenly, and I know it didn't all change
All
at
the
once. I
world's
know
a
it didn't. I know
stage.
it was already there and he was already, but this is the thing. People are like that sometimes, and then you get people that are like when what we've been talking about all along. You get these people that are normalizing this behavior and saying that it's okay, it's just different, that he's just being different, and using all these excuses to back it up, that he has the freedom, you know, a freedom of speech too. He can talk about or say things and he can believe whatever he wants. But at the end of the day, there are people like that that are being swayed by those things.
Yeah.
And he is one of them. He was one of them.
Yeah,
They don't have a good staple
without
on
realizing it. You become a mouthpiece for.
They don't have a good staple on why they have morals, what they are, or why, you know, how they come to these conclusions. There's no real good epistemology there for a lot of these people, whether they grew up super religious or not. And
critical thinking was left to the wayside.
I've read the Bible back to front to back more times than what he has in his lifetime. I guarantee it. I was trying to convert people in school. He was not. I was trying to actively try to convert people that were in a public school with me. That didn't, make good friends, but
Hey,
there
hey,
were,
to what you were saying earlier, not to derail you, but a comment here says, perfectly put, that's exactly how it feels when someone says everything happens for a reason. It's an excuse for the abusers, and it makes the victims feel even worse.
thank you for that comment, Erica. That's perfectly said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, it is. But yeah. Um, I did lose my train of thought on that one.
Yeah, sorry. It was
You're
like
good.
you were talking about how he adopted it later on and then just kind of ran with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's baffling to see that, and then to see this shit brought up with the Bible verses being quoted, and then know that that person hasn't. The thing that kills me is that if I had such little knowledge about it going in, I don't understand how people don't question it to the point of being like, well, if they'd like, to me, if I had a fresh set of eyes on that religion, coming into it, even if there was like a little bit of the thing of my family went and did whatever, went on, Sundays maybe sometimes, or did the thing. Those types of people are what I'm talking about, like the ones that went to maybe holidays or something and went to some things, and it's more
Yeah,
about family
the
or whatever.
Easter, Christmas, yeah.
Right, but okay, those like, to me, like, if I'm going to read a book or if I'm going to take in some kind of knowledge or whatever, I want to know the source. I want to know what, and question those things. So how are people going into this thing and not ever questioning that? Because these stories and things
Indoctrination.
have
You
been
were raised to not question it. That's the point.
right,
That's why it's very, very imperative. It's imperative, very important that you start at a very young age, because if you get that instilled in them that this is
but
the truth.
they haven't really been indoctrinated. Like, it's a secondary indoctrination. It's not really even,
Oh,
you know what I
right. We're
mean?
talking
This
about
is like,
later on.
yeah,
It seeps back,
but
I
like,
guess.
the idea of, and this is the thing too, the actual, like, logical standpoint of this, that we're going to take morals from ancient goat herders that wrote these books that we don't even know, they were 1,000 years ago, they were a
A
thousand
story from a
years.
story from a story
There's
from
stories
a
about
friend
events a
from the dude.
thousand years before they were ever even, or 2,000, or however many. It doesn't matter at that point,
Yeah.
right? It's fucking telephone. So they're
Yeah.
based off of things like that before they ever even started writing these stories down.
Yes.
That's ridiculous. So, but then you're going to take even more ridiculous. You're going to take
It's
those morals.
comforting to have someone just tell you something
You're going to have
and you
those
just take
morals,
it.
and you're going to use those for today's society.
It's hard to make it
Based,
their own.
and then based off of a rock, a story about a rock being thrown and killing a fucking giant.
Hmm. Well, that one's a stone.
Yeah.
It's not the
Uh,
size of the rock in the fight. It's the
but
size of the fight
now,
in the stone.
now, if you're looking at the sources of these morals of this god that they're talking about, then to begin with, so the morals from the ancient goat herders and the stories of an invisible god that was okay with rape, genocide, incest, murder, torture, and all that shit. That is the one you're going to choose to tell us who the good guy and the bad guy is in this scenario of the story of, right? You're
Yes.
because you're saying that the bad hand. Okay, well, how do you know that then? How do you know that?
Because it's
You're
in
you're judging it based off the
the
morals
book.
of this book,
Yes.
and the same morals that were okay with the god being okay with the rape and and
The Bible is true and factual because the Bible says it is.
yeah. I mean, it's not even getting into like how like a rock isn't a fucking gun.
Well, I mean, that was something I just put together. I was like, that's obviously what that, like, in today's world, like, in the
No, that's
environment of
exactly
what
what
we're
they're
fighting,
insinuating by
like,
it.
what we're,
But
yeah,
yeah,
especially because, like, since the gun argument's such a hot topic, and it's been one for a very long time. So, of course, that's like what that, uh, I guess, fucking metaphor is,
yeah,
analogy, sort of. Um, that's what that was obviously about. As for the question you're asking, like, why doesn't logic fight through? Again, because a lot of times people just don't have the energy to want to fight back. And if you just, you grew up around it at the very least, enough of it makes some sense to you in the way you want it to look. Again, like I boil
I
it down
feel
to
like
you
I feel
get
like I grew up.
told what to think, and it's easier to do that.
It feels like I grew
How to
up.
think. You get told how to think.
Well, it feels like I grew up with this kind of like a block, a mental block being put on these things that I wasn't able to question things properly because I had this faith that I had to rely on rather than, actual evidence of any kind to base things off of. So it's hard for me to see that and have gone through that. And it looks like people are free from that, perfectly free from that type of, being restricted to only one type of thinking. They can choose to think, believe or have any, look at these things, analyze these things properly, and they just decide fucking not to. It's like that person that grew up with the fucking, all of the, a good bit of money, mommy and daddy funded them their whole lives, and they fucking go out and just waste it all, you know, and then they want to complain about them being the victim of things or whatever.
Yeah, you squandered it, not
Yeah,
someone else.
but
Yeah,
and
I'm
they
not sure what to add to that for that one, man.
yeah,
And about it, again for me, it's always it's very simple. It whenever I'm like I just don't understand. I do the you don't you can't grasp it because you walked away from it.
right.
So like I forget. Have you ever heard of the curse of knowledge?
I
It's a
I mean, it depends
philosophical.
on what you're talking about.
No,
Yeah.
it's just there's a term for it in psychology called the curse of knowledge. It's not
Okay.
philosophical or anything. It's a psychological term, and what it is it's this when you learn something, you lose the ability to remember why you didn't understand it in the first place. It's that
Yeah.
thing where like if you're trying to train someone on a job, which we've both done, and like you've done that job for like 4 years or whatever the fuck, right? And then
Right.
like they bring the NFG and they're the new fucking guy, and he's like, all right, I need you to train him how to, you know, tamp the asphalt while the paver is going down the road. And
Yeah.
you're like, yeah, it's easy. Just this, you figure it out. There's an ant. And the guy's like holding it sideways or like fucking hitting it like at an angle. And you're like, I don't understand why this is so hard. It's that. You
Right.
don't know. Your brain loses the ability to remember how you didn't understand something. Because
Yeah.
once you learn it, you're like, oh, this is so obvious. This is so right there in front of my face.
Right.
And that's one of the things that make us as atheists come off as arrogant as fuck is because we learned like the logic techniques to break away from it. I mean, or just, the realization of the mad amount of trauma, which I always want to keep reiterating.
I think it's definitely part of it, and I think there's also this other part where people have like made it popular to be dumb, like like society has
Anti-intellectualism.
almost made it popular to be. Oh, well, you think you're so smart. Like, you know how many fucking times I've heard that stupid shit, and it
Yeah.
won't be over anything that was like that, that intelligent of
Oh,
a
you
thing.
think you're
Like,
better than me? I'm like, no, absolutely not. I was like,
right,
actually, that's your guys' thing, but that's not where we're going with this right now. I was like, no, the point is that like I'm trying to explain to you why this is borderline objectively wrong to like follow this, at least in the way that you're going through it. It again, like I said, it comes off as arrogant
yeah,
to someone that's thing, especially when they. I always we always forget that like they actually believe this. Like I think there's like a splinter in her head once you become an atheist or even agnostic or anything like that. There's a splinter in her brain that's like they're faking it. They're just
yeah.
they're lying. I got to figure out how to show them to themselves that they're not lying. They truly believe this stuff. So when someone has when they go to that Sunday, Saturday, whatever the fuck sermon where somebody reads a passage and then, interprets it and then says their, spiel, they truly internalize that stuff. That becomes wisdom. That becomes knowledge. Not
I mean,
just like
I just,
some
I
thought,
see.
not some belief.
I don't
It's
think that they,
knowledge.
you know what I mean? I don't think that they're just faking it or anything like that. I obviously, like, I've been through it. For me to believe in something for 20 some years or
Well,
whatever,
that's why I brought up the
but
curse of knowledge
yeah,
concept. It's because like you're
yeah,
like I don't believe it, but I did believe it, but I
right.
need to get through to them. The, that's why I brought that up, and then that's why I went back and said like there's a splinter. There's
It
always going to
does.
be because of it.
Well,
It
and it
feels like you're like
also,
what is it that's going to take to break through to you? That's not how it works really.
right.
They need to convince themselves there's something that, and all you can do is, like I said, we fight against the religion, we try to help the people.
Yeah,
That's real hard to do though, because it's fucking shitty. Like we said earlier, that ideology that got shoved into the highest law of the land, ripped away women's autonomy, bodily autonomy, their medical rights,
yeah,
and it's fucking infuriating. But at the same time, you got to remember that individual that's talking to you right now, it's their whole goal might not have had anything to do with any of that. Their whole goal is to find purpose in like love or
yeah.
something, whatever those like grander ideals, those grander
DMT.
human DMT, grander human experiences that like every individual is trying to get at, like find
Right.
purpose or whatever the fuck else. They think that this is the path,
Yeah,
right? So you're not trying to break them away from bad ideas. They feel like you're breaking them away from like finding happiness and like fulfillment and like purpose. That's something I had to remind myself a lot when I first started arguing with people. Because when I started when I was like 17,
well,
18, 19, I was
yeah,
like, oh, fuck yourself. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I made my whole identity based around my belief system and everything. So yeah,
Yeah.
like whenever I was deconverting and everything, I had to rebuild every fucking thing. Like it,
That's catastrophe. That's a mental catastrophe. That's like if you
that's
packaged up
something
8 midlife crises into
that is.
one and then dropped it on yourself at,
Oh
what,
yeah,
18, 19, 20?
that's something
You told me how old?
that doesn't get talked about. I was 24, something like that.
Shit, I forgot that it hit late.
25. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, that's when it first started kind of hitting, and that was like, yeah. Um, is that right? God, something
Time
like that.
blurs
Yeah,
together.
it does.
Fucking it's like when you're in your 30s, you're just like, does this happen last week or last year? Shit. I don't figure. A minute ago.
But yeah, that's something that's like doesn't really get talked too much about. You hear about the deconversion thing or deconstruction. You don't hear about the reconstruction afterwards or
Yeah,
how
building
all
yourself
that fucking
back up
works.
from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like it's ripping yourself apart because like you've mentioned many times before, like you built your entire mentality, life, like you said, personality, persona,
Yeah.
right and wrong, like your being had a scaffolding that was built off of this, and when that
Yeah.
collapsed, like parts of you were still on that scaffolding, but they all
Yeah.
went crashing down, and then
Yeah.
no, the now the prospect of picking that, like just imagine if your house gets hit by a tornado tomorrow, and like anyways, just put it back together. All the parts are right there. It's fine. Just put it back together.
Yeah, I do like my actual deconversion itself is a little bit blurry because it's not like one thing happened, but I remember, and I don't remember an exact day or an exact year or anything like that, but I
It's
do
probably because it was
remember.
never an exact epiphany moment. It
I
might have been that
remember.
first domino. You probably
I
remember like
do.
that.
I do remember the first specific like. I do remember that. I remember that occurring. Like I remember there being an epiphany moment, and it was this like
Oh,
strike of fucking fear through me of.
oh fuck.
Yeah, I remember that. Like I remember it being just that overcame me for a little while, where I was processing, oh my god, all these people that died basically just
They're
died all
not
over
watching.
again
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, they
because
aren't watching me from
there's no
upstairs.
eternal life now. So
I'm
what does
not
that mean?
talking to. Yeah,
So
when I
these people are
pray,
dead. They aren't just pretend dead like religion fucking makes them out to be. They're dead.
yeah,
So now I'm processing all of the deaths that I've had throughout my existence all over again. And that's part of the reconstruction thing, and that happens while the deconstruction's happening at the same time.
Yeah. You're like, oh, good, I get to fucking grieve
Oh,
10,000
forget.
times in a second. Yeah,
Yeah.
all at once.
And not only that, that changes your whole perspective on people dying after that.
Yeah, it
They're
comes a little
important
bit
to you.
darker, even
And then
darker.
your life itself and feeling like you don't have enough time to do things or to there's so much to all of that.
Yeah, no, it's the I didn't have quite as like uh catastrophic of a deconstruction and rebuild because like I said, I didn't have quite as much trauma that you experienced. My family wasn't that diehard. We would like a couple Sundays a year type of religion
Yeah.
people. Like it was still pretty much not pushed, but it was very much always a background hum when it came to like how things worked or how things were spoken about, talked about, like on all ends of categories or whatever. Um, so like I don't know, the moment it slowly dawned on me that they weren't there anymore. I think I drunkenly touched on it in a stupid TikTok about like my grandparents and stuff, and I was told that like the thunder is in bowling or whatever the fuck, because that was what they like to do, and the lightning was the
Mm-hmm.
bowling alley lights and whatnot. And then like the realization like that well obviously this was years and years later, that was like fairy
Yeah.
tale kid story that was told when I was really young. Years later, remembering that that was a story that was told to me, that punched me in the gut. That kind
Yeah.
of fucking sucked. And it comes out of nowhere too. Like that, I wouldn't call that an epiphany. That was just like a memory that immediately cascaded into a gut punch and like a couple tears.
I
It's
remember
like that's
having
just wrong. That's just rough.
I had this crazy thing happen to me whenever I was a kid where my family just hid a fucking death in the family from me because they didn't want to get in like
They just didn't want to talk about it.
yeah.
Like we're just gonna ignore this.
Oh, it was like my great grandma or something, and they just like I'd stayed at home with I think my other with I can't remember how all of that happened. And it wasn't my great. It had to have been somebody else. But I remember them going to a funeral without me and not telling me that this person had died. It might have been my aunt had. That was weird too, for how Christian they were and everything. My aunt had. I had somebody that I called my uncle, and it was her boyfriend, and they never got married. She had been married before and had kids, but this
They
person they
just
never.
picked a random. They just picked a random like preference. They were like, yeah, he's a
It is the
dead.
weirdest, like cherry picking of things that I've ever fucking seen. Whenever you get into shit like that,
That is pretty fucking
but
weird.
it goes along with the idea in Christianity that family gets away with anything, that they can do whatever, and
Yeah,
family comes first. So they kind of
do not
they can
question family.
fudge things just a tiny bit there with that stuff if they want. But yeah, I remember being like left out of a. I was younger, but it was like this weird thing of protecting me from death or something. I don't know what. Yeah.
I don't think they knew how to breach it.
Mm-mm.
Like they're like, well, we're just gonna deal with this at another time,
But
and then just never got around to
I
it.
remember asking like my mom or somebody about them a year later or something, and or a few months later, and they're like, then they tell me,
Yeah, great.
and it's like, why?
He got sick of hiding it, so just out of nowhere, like, oh
Yeah,
yeah, great grand game, Dad.
yeah,
When? Like 5 years ago. What
yeah,
the fuck?
yeah,
Ah, it's fine. You didn't miss her. No one knew.
yeah.
Like that's
I don't
fucked up.
know,
Man,
but
I don't know where to go with this, man. I got dark. I got real dark.
it did get dark.
We'll have to touch on this again,
We'll have
though.
to talk about clowns now or something that's killer clowns. I don't know. Where do we go from here?
Bathroom breaks.
Yeah,
That's a top. That's an idea.
let's.
Fuck.
Well, with all of that, let's end it there. We want to do another one. We've got 2 viewers now.
Oh no.
They're watching this shit show, this train
Well,
wreck.
I mean, we can keep going. It's just intermission time.
Sure.
All right.
Well, we'll just I can't pause it or anything. Is
No,
the
you
shit
just
part?
stop. You just hit this button, and then you just become a dot, and then no one knows what's
Okay.
happening.
We'll just become dots.
Yeah. Oh, I don't have an account, so I'm just like a even more anonymous dot. See, what I should have done is I should have had like one of those backgrounds that says like "will return soon." All right. Well, we're waiting for our fearless host to return. I'm gonna tell dad jokes. I gotta look them up. I don't really have any good ones off the top of my head. We got here. Let's see what we got here. I'm afraid of the calendar, or I'm afraid for the calendar. Its days are numbered. Yep. Yep. Let's see here. Why do fathers take an extra pair of socks when they go golfing? In case they get a hole in one.
Are you telling horrible dad jokes now?
Yes. Yeah. I was like,
Okay.
while we wait for our fearless host, I'm going to tell awful dad jokes. I only got 2 out. So you came back just in time. You saved the entire show.
Awesome.
I can't see how many viewers we have, so I can't see if we lost all of them. It's fine if we did. I'm just curious.
We've got 2 right now, I think. Maybe one of them's still Erica. Should we just start bringing people on? I'll just give them the link. How about this? I don't know if that works or not. I've seen this done. Come chat with us.
It's gonna be some wild bot. We're asking for trouble on this one. Okay, so let's go from sad dark
What's
to
the worst that's going to happen? We're going to have to take it down or kick them out of the room. Like,
true.
I think we're good.
They just come in here and they just start saying every slur on the planet.
Right.
I'm like, oh shit, fuck. I'll be like, join my Discord. So we can go from like sad dark to a comedy in a horrible way. So there was a. I'm just gonna bring it up because I'm gonna butcher everything about it. All right. Okay. So a UK medical practice. Let's see here. It's a medical practice. It's a center which has roughly 8,000 patients, according to the BBC. Anyways, they went to send out a Merry Christmas text to their 8,000 patients to tell them, have a happy holiday last year. So, December like 20th, they sent out a mass text message. And instead of wishing them all a Merry Christmas and hope you all have a happy New Year, they accidentally sent out a mass text telling them they all had aggressive lung cancer and a link to a DS-1500 form for terminal patients.
Oh, that's
8,000 people got a fucking text message that told them they had cancer when they wanted to say Merry Christmas. Oh, and they didn't fix it except for 12 hours later where they're like, never mind, that's not what we meant. Just kidding. That's not real. Merry Christmas.
It would have been great though if they would have done this on April Fool's Day, like to reveal that they were wrong and just be like,
oh my God.
April Fool's!
Enjoy your spring.
The radiation's on us. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, free cancer screenings for 8,000 people. Let's go.
I mean, really, doesn't that make somebody a millionaire at that point?
I don't know how much you could sue for something like that. Like mental anguish, probably. The funny thing is, I actually have a more personal story to something just like this. My buddy went to the doctor for a blood test. Just, standard, routine blood test. Went into there, got it. You have to wait like a day to get all your information back. He was at work with me. We're bullshit as one of my buddies I work with. And he's like, holy shit. He's like, dude, hey, I fucking got a message. My kidneys are failing. Like my shit's all fucked up. I have to go back in there. None of my shit's working. So they scheduled an appointment for him like a month out from that day. So for like 2.5 weeks, he literally thought he was like dying. He was like trying to figure out how he was gonna like tell his kids, like, hey, dad might be a little messed up, this, that, the other, hey, it'll all be okay. And like I guess like in 5 days before like the follow up, they canceled it, and he's like, why did it get canceled? And the doctor called, and she's like, so your paperwork got messed up with someone else's. Your blood work's fine, everything's golden. Here's your new one. And sent him the updated shit that told him all his numbers were gravy.
Jesus.
So here's the fucked part. So like, yeah, he was terrified for 2.5 weeks, and so was I, man. It was like my buddy. That fucking sucked. Those weeks were shitty. What about the dude where they're like, everything's gravy, and then 2 weeks later they're like, remember how we said everything was okay? Like that is a fuck up. These seem like things
Not only that
shouldn't happen.
If somebody is telling me I have a limited time to live, I am gonna do some fucked
dumb
up
shit. Yeah, I can see that.
Like I am going like there's no life left to ruin. What are you gonna do?
You're gonna be like that guy that ran up all his credit cards when he thought the Mayan calendar was real.
It would be bad. Like they would.
Oh, good. Yeah, okay. Let's not say this on live. We'll save this for patrons only feed. We'll tell you exactly what Slew would do if he only had a week to live. Yes, the after party.
That would be great.
Jeez.
We will make that an episode of itself.
Yeah, just talk about like, all right, so you have a week left to live. Get real. What you gonna do?
What would Slew do?
What would Slew do? There we go. WWSD. That's something sounds wrong with that. But yeah, man, I think I would waste it. I'd just be like, well, it blows, and I wouldn't do anything different because I'm like a fucking slave to habit. I would just I wouldn't go to work or anything, but like I'd probably just be like try to be as like boring and mundane as possible to like mitigate the ludicrous amounts of anxiety that pump through my veins when nothing bad's happening. I can't imagine when something actually terrible is happening. I knew what I was like during the pandemic. I'm a hypochondriac germaphobe that lived through. I was not okay. I was
if I go
wild online.
The thing is, like, if I get to the point where I don't know. If that were happening, I'm going to go straight to the bottom, like as fast as I fucking can with
Like, it's
life,
not a
just in
race to the
general. Like
bottom.
it
I'm
is
just
just,
going to appear there.
oh yeah, yeah. It'll be a straight plummet.
So, like, there's like no race, no movement. I'm just gonna apparate there, like I'm quantum fucking tunneling to the very bottom.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
it would be.
actually I wouldn't. I can't say what I would do. I'd probably be in such like a fucking paralyzed stupor. Probably wouldn't be able to do normal stuff. I'd just be extra depressed. I'm already a depressed asshole. I can't imagine if something like that came up.
Well, and the thing
It's
is,
like,
like,
here's your bucket list. I'm like, I'd still. The funny thing is, I probably still wouldn't want to ride a roller coaster or something, or whatever the fuck else. People are like, well, let's bungee jump or fucking climb Mount Everest. I'm like, I'm good.
I mean, all rules are based on. I don't know. Like there's a when you have the limited amount of time that you have to deal with the bullshit or whatever, it's one thing, but then yeah.
Yeah. The rules of society break down very quickly when you don't have. There is no incentive to like worry about ramifications.
Right.
It's like, hey, you can't do that. You're like, yeah, I know. You know what's gonna happen to you? Not shit. I have 3 hours to go. I think that is an interesting question though, because oftentimes it's got like the same kind of implications as like the question about what would you do if you got $100 billion. Like, I don't think you can actually truly put yourself in the shoes of that moment when it's real, not just like some thought experiment that you're giving yourself. I feel like there's a stark difference between like the reality of something setting in and just like,
Yeah.
figuring out what the hell, because like anything else like that, right? Like someone's like, say you weren't trained in like martial arts or some shit, and like a fight breaks out right in front of you. Those first few seconds, you really don't know what you're gonna do. Like if you're not trained fighting or whatever the fuck, you don't know. Are you gonna like jump out? Are you gonna throw something? Are you gonna freeze like a deer in the headlights? I don't think.
I mean, for
you
me,
really know, because if it's something you've never experienced, how the fuck can you say how you're gonna react?
Let's specify the actual scenario here.
Word.
So let's say that it is like 100% certain you are going to die in 4 days.
Yeah.
Not there's a chance you could get through chemo and you could
know what I mean? You're
going
south, but you might piddle around.
Yeah, no, not that. My scenario is set up in that this circumstance that there's
an asteroid that is honed in on your head.
Yeah, okay. We'll go with that.
It's a godstroid and it really hates you and it has a homing beacon. You cannot dodge it.
But
yeah, I mean, like I said, I wouldn't work. I would absolutely not be going to work. Work is not something I do for enjoyment. Work is something I do because it makes me money and allows me money the money I use to do things I enjoy, like buy this fucking computer and this overpriced microphone.
So many things I fucking do.
I don't, but I don't fucking know. I don't know if I'd go.
I would make sure that Donald Trump got salmonella poisoning. Like that would be my fucking whole goal. If it took
poison his Big Mac.
Yeah, like it would just be. It would be things like this that would keep me busy with the ends of the end days of my life.
I always had an intrusive thought when I was growing.
Very random and very specific random things. Like
yeah. Okay, here's one. Okay, so my brain does this thing where it has intrusive thoughts, and they're not like all dark. They're not like, well, what happened if I threw this knife at somebody? It's not that pops up too, and I fucking hate it. It's awful. My brain just immediately will dive to like the worst possible fucked up thing ever, and I'm like, why? Why, brain? For no fucking reason. Like, I don't even, like, you'll be driving down the road, and I'm just like, what if I just fucking pile drove into this car next to me? Like, and I'm like, I'm not gonna fucking do that shit, but like, why does my brain do that? I don't know. And maybe the call of the void, but well, no, because they're not even like things that would kill me, just like this wild ass fucking wild shit. No, and this has plagued me from since forever, as far back as I can remember, because I would always have these things while I was in church, which touches on us perfectly. So I'd be
Oh,
like,
wow.
what would happen if I just like picked this? Remember those books that had all the fucking the
Yeah,
Psalms
the
book or whatever?
hymnals. Yeah.
Hymnals. Thank you. What would what would happen if I just chucked this at the priest? Like that would pop into my brain. Like just like what would happen? Like
Did you
would they
try
kick me
it?
out?
Did
Would
it
I
go
get
into that?
jumped?
Did you do it to
No,
try
because
and
like I
find
said,
out?
they pop into my head, but I'm not gonna actually do them like at all. I have no. That's the thing. I have no compulsion to actually do it. I have no desire. I have no like itch to do the things. My brain's just sitting there, just like, remember how I call it my what do I call it? My chaos gremlin that lives up there.
Yeah.
I refer to that part of my brain as a chaos gremlin because it just says wild shit. It has no control over me. It's just this fucking weirdo that sits over in the corners and it's just like, hey, what if and one of the things was, what if I just stripped down naked in the middle of church? Just ran up and down one of the aisles. Like, would they think I was possessed? Again,
Okay.
would they try to like do the fucking? Would they try to like do an exorcism, or would they just kick me out?
I don't think we want to know the answers to these questions because of what they already
Well,
do to
no,
kids
but where
in
I'm going with
churches.
this
I'm
is
just
like,
saying, I don't know
but where I'm
that
going
that's a
with this is
good.
like, that might be something I fucking did if I only had 4 days left. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna take some of the less awful intrusive thoughts and do those and find out what the fuck happened. Just go to a church, strip naked and run up and down one of the aisles. What, and then actually find out what happens. Do they try to exorcise me? Do they call the 5-0? What happens?
Go into a church take people from a church that speaks in tongues into a church that doesn't speak in tongues and have them start speaking in tongues.
Perfect.
What happens?
See what the
I just
fuck
wanna
happens.
know.
Yeah, like that's where I was going with that. Like, do like the non awful evil ones that'll actually like hurt somebody. Will truly hurt somebody. I'm sure someone seeing my skinny, pasty ass run around naked might traumatize somebody, but hey, I'll be all right. Just go Louis C.K. on a whole church, I guess, right? Yeah, like that's like that. Maybe that might be something I do. I might fully snap. The chaos gremlin might just take over if I only have 4 days left to live.
Do you think that would be looked at differently if we found out that like what if Louis C.K. would have had cancer and he was dying? Like, what if he would have died afterwards? Would that have
like a
gotten looked
day
at
afterwards, they're
differently?
like, why did he whip his dick out in a room full of
Yeah,
random
and
people?
then you find out like, oh well,
he had
found out that
terminal
he had
fucking
terminal
cancer.
the other.
We'd probably be a little later on him, a little bit,
Isn't that weird?
maybe.
I don't know. I think we would. And
Because
I
they're
think
not in
that's
the right
weird.
mind. They're under like mad duress. Like even in the criminal justice system, like
Yes.
under duress is something they take into consideration. Like, hey, you shot this guy in the head. They're like, yeah, because someone was pulling my toenails out.
But
like,
then again,
oh.
like I don't know.
Doesn't make it any less
Yeah.
awful, but like the fact that you did it, like we don't have to put you away. Perhaps we don't have to give you the death sentence because you're obviously probably not going to shoot someone else because you didn't do it under your own volition. You did it under duress, like someone was doing some wild. Like
Yeah.
when you find out about the stories where someone robs a bank, but it was because like
By the way, that was no way, excusing Louis C.K. or anything. That's just
Oh
where
yeah, no.
my
If
fucking-
if anyone in here is listening, and I'm like, yeah, no, you should be able to whip your dick out in front of
No,
women
that wasn't
and
what I
start
was saying.
whipping off. It's fine. They got to deal with it. Yeah, no, that's not what we're saying. If you think that's what we're saying, that's because you don't know who the fuck we are. We are just starting on this shit.
Come on the show and tell us. We have
yeah, tell us we suck. What the fuck? 4 days to live. I guess I would try to do I'd try a pyramid scheme.
You try to screw people out of money for your ending, or you just participate in it? Like
no,
or
participate. Like I would I'd find the person that's trying to sell that fucking Mary Kay makeup online and just be like, hey,
I'm gonna
let me get some.
Mitch
Let
is
me get
going
some.
to turn
No,
into,
get it,
Mitch
but
is-
get it like on credit.
Mitch's end day goals is to become a Mary Kay salesman, the best one, the best Mary Kay salesman ever.
Because no one's gonna be more motivated than me, man. I gotta sell all that shit so I can get that money for like my last couple days.
Find an MLM.
So
He's gonna start
go buy a turbo for my Camaro.
You're gonna start selling. What is that fucking stupid little
the weight reduction sweat wrap
Oh, the vanilla sex products that like all of these women are trying to sell now, the multi-level marketing
Oh
with the
yeah,
lubes and the
it's like the
shitty little
Tupperware. Yeah, it's
vibrators
it's
that are
it's
like
Tupperware parties,
chintzy
but for
and
pervs. Yeah,
expensive. Well, it's all expensive shit, and it's like it's after they're after people that have money and are kind of like they want to pretend like they have a kink or something,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they
Their kink is
they
like a
want to be edgy
blindfold
or
or
whatever
something.
is their
Yeah, the
kink.
spiciest they got was like call me something dirty.
I can't think of the name of that though. I've
Kink
seen
light.
um
I don't know what these products are you're talking about. The only one I've heard
uh
of, the ones I was thinking of is like it's like Tupperware parties, but for like sex toy shit. And I
yeah,
can't remember what it's called. True
that's the
Spice
one.
parties or something like that.
Right, you're right. You're close. Yeah,
True Romance. Maybe
True
that's it.
Romance. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the one.
That's been around for fucking ever though.
Well,
Like
they started out.
forever.
I think they started out selling other shit before they got.
You're like, it's weird. It went in reverse. It started legit. And then
Yeah,
just turned into like,
yeah.
oh, if you can sell 47 dildos, you got to buy 50 from me
Well,
first, though.
there's it's here's the shit thing. Like it's gotten women to open up about sexuality a little bit more, but it's also
Yeah.
gotten them
But
to
to
like
get the
put on a
money, yeah.
facade to as well. And then there's the thing of it's usually not making them any money in the end, like
Yeah.
any MLM. It's all going to the top of the
Yeah. It also feels like it's kind of commoditizing like the people that are really into it, but now you're just like a fucking, you're just a target, like a
yeah,
market target, a branding scheme.
kind of like they're attracting people for the reasons of like there's a problem with the ratio of women and stuff with the work thing and all of that, and like they kind of they're promoting something that's as if it's helping women
Oh yeah,
in that aspect,
they're actually not. It's not symbiotic. It's parasitic.
but it's actually yeah
I can see what you're saying. I get it. You're like, oh,
because
good.
it's
They're fucking
the lure
side hauling on there.
they lure them in on one end of things of trying to get them, and they're promoting a thing of talking about sex and stuff, which is good. Like all of that's good things, but then at the same time it's the money making thing, the overpricing of shit for fucking one.
Of course.
But
Here's
then
a
the thing of
$8 item for
the
37.
people selling these things on this level down here are not making any money, and to be on this level up here where you would actually make any money out of it and not get fucked over, like that's going to take so much effort and time and stuff that you'd already have to have money to begin with to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Pure Romance actually is the name. It's not true. It's
Yeah,
Pure Romance. It
Pure
just
Romance,
fucking
that's it.
it finally all coalesced into my head like a gelatinous dildo.
I saw Emma Thorne talk on this, and she did a good,
Why does that
or they
name
did a
ring
good
a, Why
thing.
does that name ring a bell?
It's an atheist podcast and stuff. They have,
I've
one of
heard
the,
Emma Thorne's. Yeah, I've heard that name multiple times, and I don't know
yeah,
why.
um, oh, what's his name? One of the real religious fundies that's, like a creationist and everything is not, and it's not Ken Ham, but
I wonder if
Ken,
my
no, Hovind? Yeah, Hovind.
Ken Hovind. Yeah.
He's does the whack an atheist thing or whatever.
Oh yeah.
She's been a
It's
target of his.
debunk. Yeah, it's
She's
debunking.
been a target of
Okay.
his, and she'll rebut
Okay.
it and everything, which
He's such
is
a schmuck. I've listened to
he
all of
is.
his cyclical
It's so
logic
fucking
and
stupid.
bullshit.
Yeah.
He'll just make something up and then use it as whack an atheist. It's like, but and then but the
Yeah.
funny thing is he won't even stay on topic. He'll just go off on
No,
the same
he'll
three
try
talking
to, and
points.
what he's typically done is tried to attack her person
Yeah,
instead of
yeah,
attacking
it's
anything.
all ad
And he's
hominem
yeah,
and
it's just all of the
shitty.
logical fallacies down the line.
Like I wouldn't even hate him
Bad.
as much as if he tried to attack like the thoughts, because then you're like, well, we can engage with thoughts, but yeah, it always just turns into, well, those harlots. You're
Mhm.
like, oh, okay, all right.
Well, he's usually yeah, that's
It's always that. He
yep.
calls them harlots, and then if you're a guy, you're, well, you're just a weak non-man. It's like, again, you're not attacking the thoughts, you're just attacking the person. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
annoying. And then, like I said, he'll start off with like a bunch of ad hominems, and then he goes off at homonyms, like it's ad hominin, and then he goes off and fucking will say the same 8 talking points that he says on every fucking thing. Every single, well, the Bible is real because the Bible said it's real. And then we got whatever the fuck his weird speaking cadence is. He does. That's what he does. Not like that. Like he's having an epiphany every time he moves his head.
Well, he'll his voice will go way up all of a sudden, and he's talking like that. And he'll like it'll fluctuate upwards whenever he's addressing something that she said because it's like fucking triggered him. When he gets triggered, when he turns into a triggered little fucking snowflake, it goes way up, and then it drops down like all at the same time.
I remember years and years ago, I watched this YouTube guy called Thunderfoot. He did the same thing. He was like a super science guy, and he started dabbling in atheist. And he had a massive series called "Why Do People Laugh at Creationists?" And it was actually pretty fucking good because he would just take every single point they made and he would break down what the biblical argument was, explain why it's obvious shenanigans, and then he would bring up all the pertinent scientific information in a very good way. And like the videos were solid, especially for like, early YouTube shit, like his little diagrams and basically flash animations were actually really good. It looked like a prototype for the things like Kurtzagot, like that kind of shit. Like it was actually pretty solid. He would have like documentary footage of stuff, the diagrams of the explanations, and he was actually really good at it. And he would step on these people. And Kent Hovind was one of the main ones he would go after. And he would have clips of him talking, and he would just shit on it. Then it got weird because he started going after it was like a younger kid. He was like probably 19 max. And he was like hardline creationist too. And then like somewhere along the line when he was like fighting with, because he never really had any backlash from the people he was talking about in like the Why People Laugh at Creationists series. But when he started going after like YouTube active people, there was back and forth, and it got fucking weird because he kind of would deviate away from like fighting scientifically with like stuff. He would just do the same shit back to those people, and then he actually ended up falling down like the right wing shit where he did the weird atheist pivot shit, things like Harris did, fucking,
oh god,
who was the other one? Dawkins
shit and all of that.
Well, that was it. It was because it was like, well, scientifically speaking, and I remember,
and
like for a while I followed that shit. It took me a minute before I realized I was spiraling down. The Amazing Atheist, like those guys, they all did that hard, weird pivot.
That shit, like it
sucked.
More people would just call it out as fascism, whether it perfectly fits the fucking term or not. It's the same exact fucking shit that was being done, and it's affecting the same way.
These people amongst us are the disease, and that's what we need to purge, and then we'll all be better if that goes away. It's like,
yeah.
Like you can't even say that about like even as hardline atheists, we don't say, oh well, all the Christians should just die. We're just like, no, man, we just want them to stop believing in wild shit so they hate people. No.
When Dawkins started doing this, people were like, well, after they started to act like it was because of the stroke, but I'd looked it up and he had been saying shit before the stroke, like before any of that happened.
Yeah, I remember. I believe that too. I used that as a defense for him because he was an idol of mine.
He promoted Deborah So's book with people like that Silverman. That was
what was it? The Attack on Girls, or what the fuck was her book? I always forget the name of the book.
But that Silverman dude that was part of the Atheist Alliance or whatever, or the Atheist Internet. What is it? The one that Aaron Ra, I believe, is the head of, or was.
Oh, I don't remember.
Recent afterwards or whatever. But
there's so fucking
David
many
P.
of
Silverman.
them.
He was he did the same thing that Dawkins did basically, but he used to be like he was in charge of one of the atheist organizations for a good while. But yeah, he started getting very strong opinions about I think it was racism, I believe. And what do you call it? The systemic racism.
Oh, he was pressing
He's
against
a
that
I
shit.
believe he's the one that's a systemic racism denier, and he the same with like I
Oh.
think he took up the same transphobic
Slavery's
bullshit
over.
too.
Everything's fine now.
Yeah, they basically that's what they
Redlining never existed.
yeah.
Yeah, it was always a bummer to watch this because those were like some, and this is one of the reasons why I'm like never, ever, ever have heroes. Just don't have heroes.
Yeah.
Like thoughts, like ideas.
No,
You know,
hold your heroes accountable. It's fine to have
yeah.
heroes or whatever. Hold them
I
accountable, and
don't, man. I can't do it
they
anymore. I
don't
have
have
people I
to.
admire,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, but there's always this fucking chance you take it just one turn, and all of a sudden you turn on the
I
TV, and it's just like they're fucking
I
spouting some
still
wild shit.
there are some great Dawkins and Hitchens quotes and things that the research and things that Dawkins has done, the fucking
Yeah,
things that
God
and yet
delusion.
they still had their own fucking shit that was, it's I don't agree with them on, and I
Yeah,
don't think that has anything. It's shit that has nothing to do with the field of study that they were in or
yeah.
the thing that that I'm interested in them about.
I
And I can separate some of that to some degree, but yeah.
yeah, it's
I'm
always
not,
this
but at the same time, if Dawkins comes out with another book after doing enough shitty stuff and then never trying to even make any kind of
recant
effort
or
to,
change it or
yeah,
not even apologize, just be like, oh, I learned new things and now I know better.
right, yeah,
Like even that would be
then
fine. Honestly, we
no.
don't even like the world doesn't even seem to give a shit about
But even
apologies anymore because so many
after
people do them.
after he had apologized and shit, he still put his name
It
in the
was like
book
an
of
anti-apology.
he still put his name in the fucking book of Deborah Soh that was and
Yeah,
promoted her book on his Twitter account and shit after. So
I
like
wish I remembered what the name of her book was now.
it's about
It's called like
oh
the attack on women or girls or something like that, or the loss of girl. It was talking about.
the end of gender.
Oh, was that it? Okay,
Yeah,
maybe I'm thinking of
trying to
someone
fear
else.
monger over the
The
wicked
sudden
they thems
uptick.
like myself or
Yeah,
the
the
trans
uptick.
people that are, transitioning.
What was it about? Like how she was saying she was quote unquote concerned about the sudden uptick in.
Here's the table of contents in the actual in her book. The introduction, the battle against biology. Myth number 1. Now, she actually was an understudy of a guy that I can't think of the name. I have it wrote down some fucking place, but she was the understudy. If you looked up her credentials and stuff, the dude that she yeah, her mentor was somebody that was she's from Canada. And this was some guy that had been promoting transphobic shit for quite a time, quite a long amount of time of his research and shit. And it had something to do with men, or let's see, how did he put it? Like trans people wanting to secretly fuck their father or mother. That's why they
It's a weird
transition to
bastardization of Nietzsche or
what
Freud.
for. Yeah, it's taking old which is happening in mental health, is where you've got these professionals that are taking these small amounts of things from old fucking studies that never proved to be true, and then they're applying them today.
Yeah, they were
And
like
it's
he had
that's not how shit
hypotheses
works,
on like
man. There's
what formed certain aspects of the id, the subconscious, the
yeah.
con. Yeah,
So yeah, that is what this is. Yeah, this is who, and she's promoting a lot of the same bullshit in her book. There are more than two genders is number 3 myth, which is bullshit. That isn't a myth. There is evidence of that. Like we have the to the best of our knowledge, like if you look it up and everything, the scientific community understands that there's more than two genders and that there's more than two sexes for that matter. That there was a distinct difference, but not if you base things off of old fucking shit before we knew this. And that's what she's doing. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
It's just another one of those fucking things that are gonna take forever again.
myth number 7, women should behave like men in sex and dating.
What
I
does that
don't
mean though?
I don't know. She acts like these things are popular things that people think, and I don't even
Like
know what the fuck that means.
you can kind of like half-ass mold a colloquial understanding of what the fuck she means by that.
Myth number
Like
5, children with gender dysphoria should transition. Who the fuck is saying that? Nobody says that.
nobody says that that's exactly where you jump to.
Well, that's
Like
not even a fucking thing at that point. Like it's we everybody that anybody and everybody that is like saying anything about, the gender neutral thing, or that they're any of that shit, or this gender, she's labeling fucking trans people as gender dysphoric is what the fuck she's doing.
yeah,
And
but the
which is
DSM doesn't
old.
even have that in there
That's
anymore.
old fucking shit that, like, they would basically try to say that you're crazy over this.
Oh, while we're at it, can we bring up
But
female hysteria?
yeah, it's something along those lines. But
The
we can bring
hysterectomy.
that up in a minute. But yeah, I want to get through. So that's another myth thing that she brings up that isn't like anything. Children with gender dysphoria should transition. Nobody fucking says that, because children are not she's making it out like little kids, like 5-year-olds or something,
Yeah,
are being promoted to do. No, they're being told,
that's
like, you guys, you have, be yourselves, basically, is what
yeah.
it's you're being told.
Like
Um,
literally, when they're that age, you're just like, okay. Anyways, you want to read the
yeah,
Dr. Seuss? The fuck?
but like it is like teens and stuff that are having, they'll some kids and some teens and everything, whenever they start to feel like they're not part of that gender, which there's a difference between gender and sex. Sex would be biological sex and everything. Gender is more or less to do with the society's version of what a man or a, a woman is, and what constitutes as those things and all of that shit. So yeah, like people that are non-binary, they're or trans or whatever, feel like they don't fit into the society's view of those things.
I just
But
don't understand why it's such a terrifying thing that it just doesn't affect
yeah,
you that at
but that's the
all.
thing. This is another form of, like, what we were talking about with propaganda. This is a way of trying to normalize this shit into society, and it's by a professional. So that makes it, you get the authority thing, like you were saying, the appealing to authority.
Yeah, it's like, but this person doesn't have an expertise in this specific thing, and they're not citing the experts in the
Right.
field on this thing. They're just like, oh, I have a PhD in blank, so I have the right to speak on anything that's even moderately can be considered quote unquote scientific or whatever. Yeah, no, I don't.
Oh, this is, and what's scary is, okay, Deborah So is a neuroscientist who
Okay.
specializes in gender, sex, and sexual orientation. Now, you can have a
Wow.
fucking degree in
Yeah.
something and still be a shit person. And like I
Yeah.
said, because there's still shit people that have that same degree that have been writing these things and been passing it along. And
Yeah.
like, she's an understudy of a shit person. As an expert witness, she has testified on the subject of sexual offending behavior in the Nova Scotia Supreme Court of Canada. She consults on policy and family law cases regarding childhood gender transition. It's a nice way of
Yeah.
saying that she, yeah,
Yeah.
rails against trans people.
It's gonna. I mean, there were doctors saying that cigarettes were good for your lungs too,
Yeah.
right? Like, and I can immediately see how this would go. Like, someone could turn this and be like, "Hey, weren't
Stephen
you just saying if you're an expert in something, that's the person you listen to?" I'm like, "Nah, man, it's the consensus."
Steven
Like,
Pinker is
you gotta.
another person that had some really great things about how the mind works and shit like that, and he jumped on board with this. He's another person that promoted her. Ben Shapiro is promoting her right alongside these people.
I don't care. I
If
bet
that
you
if
don't
that
give a
gives you
fuck about
any
that.
idea, there is no way, like, I can't think of a single point where I would want my name next to Ben Shapiro's promoting
On
any fucking thing.
anything. Even if it was good, I
Any
would be like, yeah, I still don't want it. No.
No.
It's, yeah, Ben Shapiro, that guy, he can talk super fast. And then everyone just thinks that that makes him like a genius on everything he says.
And they're promoting her as being brave. It's this thing of reversing the victim and offender role where,
Yeah.
trans people have
Oh,
been
you're talking out against people. They're going to come for
trans
you.
people have been the victims forever, having to fear just going into the wrong bathroom or whatever and being murdered or whatever, because of some ignorant dipshit that believes that they're out to, I don't
Louis C.K.
I don't even want to
somebody.
go into. Yeah, there are so many like horrible, bigoted, stupid fucking things that they've come out with for other things in white supremacy with
If
black people
something
or Jewish people or
if something seems deviant,
yeah,
there is always going to be a very large group that's going to want to push back on it. And then attach any other deviant activity along with it, as if there's like a specific correlation between like bad activity that is actually bad and bad activity that you just perceive as bad. So those things must not only correlate but also be a cause, a causality, if you will. It's it is something you always have to push back against, but like it's like that's we're just watching it in real time with the new fucking spook thing.
yeah.
It's the new spook thing. Like it wasn't that long ago that if you were gay, you were awful, horrible, deviant.
Oh, I didn't even just like you could get put in prison for being gay. Like
Yeah,
that's something that people don't. I,
sodomy
it's
laws.
yeah, that's been just brushed under. That wasn't that long ago.
No,
Less than 100 years.
less than 50.
Less than 50.
There's still
I
sodomy
didn't know
laws
if
right
less
now.
than 50 would be, yeah. They're like, yeah.
I'm just saying, it's just the next
I
frontier.
want to know too, what the fuck was the idea? Like, what was the thought process on making that bill up? Like, what are we? I'm just like,
Theology.
okay, so now you've got it to where these
You
gay
write
people
it
can't fuck in public, or well, gay
or
people
just
couldn't fuck
fuck.
in public to begin with. So what the
No
fuck?
one
Like,
can fuck in public.
right. So what the fuck did this have to like what were they thinking was happening? And then how did they think they were going to catch them
Getting
is what I'm
reelected,
thinking.
getting
So what
reelected,
you
getting
know what I mean?
reelected. It's
Like,
lip service. It's to get reelected. Look what I'm doing against the people that you don't like. Look at what I'm doing to fight against the people that my voter base doesn't like. Look what I'm doing against the people
yeah.
you don't like. That's it. That's all the fuck it is. Who needs to even enforce it as
But
long
then
as you
this is
just say that you
here's the other
hate it enough
thing,
to actually
like
make a
like
legal
I've said
bill?
before, these laws they've never applied to rich people. The rich people in this country have gotten to get away with whatever the fuck they want, whenever they want, and they could even
Damn,
make
that's
the laws against, themselves in that manner, and it still won't affect them because they have
spring. Damn, your springboard into classes stuff is great. This is phenomenal. I'm fucking lost. Uh, yeah, no, I mean, the reason why I got stumped right there is because I didn't want to loop immediately just back into like how we were
yeah,
talking about again about like, yeah, no, when you have the money and the means and the power, the laws don't matter to you.
yeah,
Or like they matter to you, but you're able to fight them with such gusto that like it won't matter for 10 years because they'll just get wrapped up in courts and everything else, and your lawyers will get you out of it. You can do the most asinine, terrible shit, and you'll get like a week in jail and a year house arrest at your mansion.
yeah.
But like we always go on, I don't want to fucking rehash that shit again. So I was
No, but
like,
there were like famous actors and stuff that were gay that they stayed closeted, but they were able to stay closeted. They were able to pay people
yeah,
off. They were able to, so there's like that thing where
that's just the
yeah,
background hum in everything that has to do with the American culture or just the world culture in general. As
yeah,
long as you have the means and the money and the power, like you are mostly untouchable. I think one of my favorite things ever was there was like a famous philosopher once said that if boo dad jokes, I was late to the show.
Who is?
Man, you got this, Erica. You got your stuff delayed right now. I don't know where you're at. That was like 20 some minutes ago.
Wow. Oh
But
yeah, they
what
are
was I
listening
saying?
in real time.
Yeah, no, something's delayed. Uh, Crap, I just derailed myself like I'm a train in Ohio.
Oh,
Oh, fuck. It doesn't matter. Wherever I was going with it was probably something I already said 8 times. I have a bad habit of that shit. Um,
say it again until you fucking listen.
no one listens. People hear things. They don't listen to
all
things.
all two of you.
Yeah. I think it's one in a bot. I don't think there's a bot in here.
Probably a
Like picking
moderator.
up key. Yeah. Oh God. Well, bye. It was nice being on YouTube. Shit. But actually, I think with that, I probably should wrap it up. I got like
Yep.
45 minutes before I got to start packing up,
Yeah, let's
getting ready
wrap
for the
this one
rest of
up
this
and,
day.
we'll
But I
do this
definitely look
shit
forward to
again
doing
soon.
this more often. I think this
Me-
could be a pretty regularized thing.
Yeah, I've got some things wrote up that we need to get recorded and edited out right, but this might be a good way of keeping things a bit more active anyway.
Yeah, because then it's just live, and people can
Yep.
come in here and say that was stupid, and we'll be like, "Fuck you, get in here," and then we fucking lasso them in, and then we're just like, "No, we're just kidding. What's up? Let's hear what you have to say." We actually are interested in communicating with people.
Yeah,
We come
So-
off brash and abrasive, but that's just
just
who we
us.
are. It's fine. Once
We're
you're in
in
there,
that.
we try to be nice. We're not.
Yeah,
Right now, we're talking to a screen, so it's not the same, right?
right.
And like I said, there was a time where we got drunk. I'm pretty sure he did tell me he hoped I got cancer one time. It was fucking ridiculous. He's gonna
I'm
deny
pretty
it.
sure I did.
He's
No, I'm not gonna
deny
deny
it.
it. It's
No,
cancer
I did.
culture.
That's it. That's how you have to wrap it up right there. That was it, everybody.
That's it.
Dun, 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 dun.
Bye.